Welcome to Week 4, Women in the Islamic Tradition. Our topic this week is Women Before Islam. Women in pre-Islamic societies and civilizations suffered great injustices. In pagan Arab society, they were exposed to diverse kinds of humiliation. They were treated like material property to be disposed of at the whim of the male guardian. They were not entitled to inherit from parents or husbands. Arabs believed inheritance should only be granted to those who had martial abilities, like being able to ride a horse, fight, gain war booty, and help protect the tribe and the clan. Since women in the pagan Arab society generally did not have these qualities, they were themselves inherited like any movable commodity after the death of an indebted husband. If the deceased husband had adult sons from other marriages, the oldest son amongst them had the right to add her to his household, just as a son inherits other chattels from his deceased father. She was unable to leave the house of her stepson unless she paid a ransom. As a general practice, men had the freedom to acquire as many wives as they desired to do so, with no set limits. There was no system of law and justice that would forbid a man from committing any injustice towards his wives. Women had no right to choose or even consent to be chosen as a partner for marriage. They were simply given away. Women were forbidden to remarry if a husband divorced them. In the pre-Islamic era of Arabia, fathers commonly became extremely angry and disgraced with the birth of a female child into their family. Some considered it an evil omen. Women were not even able to practice some of the most natural of rights. For instance, eating certain types of food was allowed only for males. The hatred of female babies prompted Arabs to bury them alive. Some fathers used to bury their female children alive if the child was leprous, lame, or with a birth defect. The honor afforded to women during pre-Islamic times was the protection of her person, family, and tribe, and the revenge against any who humiliated or dishonored her. But even this was more for male pride, dignity, and tribal honor than for a concern for the female gender. This situation of women in the Arab society led Omar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph of the Muslims, to say, as reported by Muslim, "By Allah, we didn't used to think that women had anything until Allah revealed about them what He revealed in the Quran, and distributed to them what He distributed." As reported in Bukhari 4729 and Muslim 31. I would like you to begin this week by reading Women Before Islam. After completing the reading, go ahead and take the quiz Women Before Islam and in Other Cultures. Your final assignment is the discussion of the week, which is just to discuss with your fellow classmates the topic that you plan to write your paper about. The assignments are sort of sparse this week. There's not much to do. So I'd really like you to spend the time researching your topic and coming up with what you want to write your paper about and begin to write that paper this week. I put up an announcement earlier in the week about a film that I got in my YouTube account, and I passed it on for you all to watch. The name of the film is 4 Wives and One Husband, and it's about the practice of polygamy in rural Iran. It's kind of an interesting film, but it's important to understand that there is a difference between the practice of polygamy in Islam and the practice of polygamy as it's seen in Muslim countries. In this particular film, the man ends up taking a 5th wife, which according to Islamic practices is completely wrong. So There are practices within the Muslim world that are believed to be Islamic when in fact they're not. And later on in this semester, we'll talk about the difference between culture and Islam. And sometimes what happens is that over centuries, and without proper Islamic education, people find tribal practices or things that they've always done, traditional practices, and although they're not Islamic, sheikhs and masjids will take those practices and mold them into what society believes is just part of the religion, when in fact they're not. So it's really important when you watch the film to understand that everything that you see isn't necessarily related to Islam. It may be related to the culture of that particular area. And that's something, even when you write your paper, you should explore the idea that in fact that particular aspect may or may not be something that is given in the Quran, but it's something that existed prior to the Quran or alongside the Quran in the culture, and not necessarily something that was brought to the society through Islam. It may have just been there before and was incorporated into the culture. Anyway, as I mentioned, we'll be talking about that a little bit later in this semester, but just keep that in mind when you're exploring topics for your paper. Please email me and let me know what topic you're planning to choose. And in addition to that, of course, discuss your topic with your fellow classmates. And have a wonderful week.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.